Hey, what's going on, y'all? I hope all is well. Today, we will be talking about the three truths about starting a nonprofit organization. Um, I hear a lot of people looking to start, that's willing to start a nonprofit, looking to actually get into that process of bettering their community. But from a nonprofit leader with over 15 years of experience in working in nonprofits and actually 3 years of experience with actually launching my own nonprofit. I am here to talk to you about the three strengths about actually starting a nonprofit. Um, I see, firstly, I want everyone to kind of look at themselves when you think about starting a nonprofit and really evaluate who you are at the moment and for the purpose of understanding that you have to have a starting point. Um, in my process, I didn't just start straight up employment services just out of nowhere. It was just an ongoing process. Like I started, as mentioned, I started my work in nonprofit organizations early on, and that kind of gave me the education and the wherewithal to actually take a chance and take that leap. However, passion is really not enough. That is the first point. Passion alone is not enough. It is really exciting to want to change the world, but realistically, nonprofits need real solid legal, financial, and operational foundation, right? So you must think of it from that standpoint that a nonprofit needs a solid legal, financial, and operational foundation. So incorporating your nonprofit into in your state is important. Applying for a 501(c)(3) tax exempt status within your IRS is important, right? Creating bylaws, mission statement, etc. Um, Without these, your nonprofit can pretty much risk legal troubles, losing credibility, or even being shut down. So, passion actually fuels the work, but it takes that kind of business savviness to keep it going. You got to have a structure. And with that, you must know that someone has to do it. Who's going to do it? And who's going to continue to do it? So, Um, we're not straight up employment services. We don't have a lot of staff, but it was before we actually launched it. We looked at it from a standpoint on how we can do this with we can do this in numbers with just one person, right? What we strategized on how one person can serve 50 people. And we thought about how that's done, and we had that strategy. And so we can imagine what we can do with 5 or 10. So um, two people, three people, right? So as I think we're up to like three people now. I'm in our staff, 3 to 5 actually right now. We have some volunteers, and with that, you should be mindful that you must be able to, delegate tasks accordingly. So, um, as mentioned, there's a business side to it, but it's the operational side. You must be able to stand the test of operations. You gotta, how can people get in contact with you? How do people know about you? All of this take money, even that access and that being able to be accessible. All of that takes money, and you cannot. I know people. You can do the work without having a nonprofit, right? You can go help people. You can go out and just stand on in the street and say with a sign and say, "Hey, I'm here to help um, with your troubles or something," right? You can do that and still be impactful. But what I see a lot of people doing is kind of transitioning into the business side of nonprofits, and it could kind of um, cause you know an interference with your passion. So passion is not enough, and you must know that. So funding takes strategy. in patience. A lot of nonprofits don't start from funding. They have to stand the test of time. They have to build a story about themselves, and as well as build a certain initiative around their um, their need for funding. So as you grow, and when you start, I think a lot of people say, "Hey, I'm gonna get a nonprofit, and then I'm gonna start right," and you know, you know, but that's it, right? I'm gonna start a nonprofit, but that's it, right? That's where they go at because then you start to understand that everything else costs. So um, you have to know that you're out of pocket. If you're the founder, the CEO, everything that you're gonna do is gonna come out of your pocket. Like you can't expect um, for the community to wait for you to get funding. Basically, you get what I'm saying? Like if you are trying to be like a solution to the community, it'll behoove you not to wait for the solution to get funding to actually help your community. You have to show a lot of funders that you're able to thrive without funding. That's the reason that they will probably buy into your mission or buy into your vision if they can see sustainability without their help. Unlike for profit businesses, 501c3s and or C4s cannot rely on revenue from product alone. Most funding comes from grants, donations, fundraising, events, or even campaigns. It can take months or even years to actually get attention or gain some consistent fundings. Many founders underestimate how much time that takes. Um, that goes into grant writing, right? Building donor relationships and maintaining cash flow. It is very, straight up employment services. If we was to do a SWOT analysis, that would fall under the W. So adjusted programs, tracking data and demonstrating impact is really um, what you should be focusing on early on when you start a nonprofit. I don't think that it's so important to focus on the funding, as everyone needs to get paid for their work, but you have to show that how your work is presenting in the community. So impact doesn't happen overnight, and impact is what's needed to actually show funding. If you can, if you can scale the needs of the community versus the impact that your organization is making in relation to the needs, then you are in a better place to receive funding. Impact takes patience and measurement. So you can't just wake up one day and say, I'm gonna start a nonprofit, right? And I'm gonna get funding. It's not for someone to be rich, right? You shouldn't look at being rich. If you want to get rich, start a business, like go gamble or something. Like I don't know, but nonprofits is not it. Nonprofit is not your lane to get rich. It's your lane to help the community. And I question a lot of people when they say they want to start a nonprofit on you don't like money, like right? You don't want funds because it is not to like sway you from it or say like you shouldn't you shouldn't start a nonprofit, but it's to make you think and make you really analyze that you can go 10 years without being paid. You can, and here's the thing, right? About this whole thing, right? Who says you're gonna get paid? You get what I'm saying? Like There's nothing that says that. So, um, although if your work is good enough in your community, you should get paid. But there's no rules saying that straight up employment services is going to be paid because we do excellent work in our community. There's no way we're gonna we can say that. However, however, we must think about we must think about how we can build on what we have. Starting off a nonprofit organization, it will not demand you to it will not demand you to actually have money. You have to build up data, so that's important. If anything I told you today, if you don't take away anything, take away that starting it, you must find a way to track data. I'll have another video on how to do that and everything, but that's the most important part. You got to find a way to track what's coming in. You got to clearly define your goals and measurable outcomes. So you got to be transparent about that, right? Here at Straight Up Employment Services, we said in 2025 that we would service. I got the business plan right. Yeah, 120 in 2025. Well, we service 270 as per 12/29. With that, you will have to find a way to take that information and show that you're over exceeding capacity, and use that as a way to build funding. So, adjusting programs based on results, community feedback, and resources. So, um, as you like, this is very important because straight up employment is here now at this moment where we're currently building programs to align with the needs. Everything is becoming more smooth, right? It's becoming more like in sync. It's like operation. The system is willing, like it's moving now. You get what I'm saying? Um, but as you go and the system continues to move, outside society has its own nuances, so we got to keep in mind of that on the outside, things are going on the outside that uh, that may change the way our system is impacted or the way we look or the way we um, our policies or practices here at Straight Up Employment Services. we look we really look at adjustments as success. So while building a nonprofit, you should look at that, right? Um, are you able to be adjustable? Are you able to understand that you can be going one way, but the need can be going another way? And how can you make the adjustment within your organization to ensure that you're meeting that need? If you can do that, um, you are really on track to becoming impactful. That's that's literally how you, I would say, if anything, how you become impactful. Um, all the way from a system level to a direct uh, level. It's about being able to be adjustable, being able to understand your system, what's going on in your head or in your organization versus what's going on with your client or with that society. So you must think about it in that magnitude. And so just to sum up everything today, passion alone is not enough. Everything should be structural in your organization. I don't move on passion. I started 2023 moving on passion, but I knew based off experience that being able to complete paperwork, having certain documentations, having certain policies and procedures, having a lock cabinet with information for my clients, right? Um, this type of attention to detail is very important when you are starting a nonprofit. A lot of people go into nonprofits without realizing that they won't be funded if they cannot be funded. There's no rule on the book saying that you can be funded, but there's a rule. There's a some sauce to it. You must be able to track your data, right? And with that being said, you know, some more key points related to funding, right? Funding um, in a form of grants. First off, your funding should come from the founder first, right? The founder really is the first funder. And what you will see based on the founder's um, budget and funding is what what it what's going on, right? You will see based off on the founder's information and the way it is growing without funding, right? If it's actually a organization to invest in. I don't know if that makes sense because I'm gonna put it in like the best term possible and break it down. Um, I would say money will speak to money, and in a sense, um, people are intrigued by that. Like people can be intrigued, and like funders will pay into people who can pay into themselves or have shown a track record of doing so. Donations is important. Here at Straight Up Employment Services, we believe that donating, all donations and proceeds go to our hardships, specifically our individual donations. If we get anything, it goes directly to hardship fund that assists with rental assistance, transportation assistance, anything that can be a barrier to employment. We look to gather all of those resources from our funders. Fundraising events or campaigns is very important. As fundraising events bring everyone together in a space where they can get a clear sense of the objective of an organization, who's at the organization, the feel of the organization. And campaigns, right? Campaigns when it can be done on social media, it can be done on in person, right? Those type of campaigns that bring in that drive that type of traffic into your organization where people are looking around saying, hey, this look like something I can put a stamp on, or I can, that can be grown out. So in relation to donors, transparency and accountability are key. Donors, volunteers, and partners want to see real measurable change, not just good intentions. So, when we're talking about change, we're talking about how exactly is your mission actually impacting that direct society. You got to pay attention to literally data that's above you, that we don't see, right? That we got to go research for. Those are the type of data that you need to tell a story in collaboration with your data. So I really don't want to talk everyone heads off about nonprofits, but if I would say the most three prevalent things to really keep in mind when starting a nonprofit is definitely passion alone is not enough. Structure matters. Funding takes strategy and persistence. Impact takes patience and measurement. So you must be able to measure impact, right? And it happens over time. So if impact happens over time, you need impact to measure your performance so you can get funding, then you can imagine how long funding may takes. All right. So that's pretty much all I have today. Again, my name is Deshaun Jennings, the founder of Straight Up Employment Services. If you are in need of employment, please go to our website, www.straightupemployment.org. And you can click on the referral form there. All right. So thank you all for reaching out, and I'll be looking to speak with you